So here's the big day, factoring non-plane x squareds. What do I mean by non-plane x squareds? Now we have a leading coefficient. It's the formal name for it. What the leading coefficient means is we have a number in front of x squared. So you look at the whole worksheet, you don't see any more plain x squareds, right? You always see a number in front. And so this is going to really impact our factoring. We're still going to make two parentheses. We're still going to look at the first term and say what times what gives me 3x squared. What times what gives me 3x squared? Yes, 3x and x. We're still going to look at the last term and say what numbers multiply to 2. Now I only have one choice really, 1 and 2, but it's going to make a difference where I put them. Like I can do 3x plus 1, x plus 2, or I could do 3x and x and do 2 and 1. Right? Both of those multiply to the first term and multiply to the last term, but only one is going to FOIL to 5x. So I'm going to have to, what I call, check my loops or check my outers and inners, which is just a shortcut way of checking the problem without redoing every first, outer, inner, and last. You're just kind of doing the OI, the outer and the inner. And you're saying which of these two combos has an outer and an inner term that add up to 5x. You're right, this one. 3x plus 2 and x plus 1 multiplies outer, the whole thing FOILs, I should say, to 3x squared plus 5x plus 2. What was wrong with the first one? Well, 1x and 6x, that multiplied or added up to 7x. So that's going to be the answer to number 2. And again, if you want to check them, you can. First, outside, inside, last. And you'll see that that does in fact add up to 7x. But we want to move towards a place where you would just kind of know that you got it right? You are so confident because you know the number so well. Another 3x squared is 3x and x, and still it has a last term of 2, 2 and 1, or it could be 1 times 2, and it's a negative 5x. So since it's got to add to a negative, both of those have to be negative. Right? So I got to think about that. Which way am I going to put them in, do you know? Yes, it's negative 2 and negative 1. The reason is if I check it first, outside, inside, last, those add up to negative 5x. The only way to get better at these is to practice them. So now we move up to 8x squared. I don't know if it's going to be 8x and x or 4x and 2x, but when I see the 6, and I think to myself, well, 4 plus 2 is 6, right? 4x and 2x, and then thankfully that's a 1 and everything's positive. So if I add positive 1 and positive 1, that's going to work, right? Outer term, inner term, last term, and those add up to 6x. Again, keeping with the 8x squared, now I don't know if it's 8 and 1 or 2 and 4, but I see that 9, and 9 is 8 times 1, so I'm going to use 8x and x. Now I need numbers that multiply to positive 1, but with that middle term being negative, they have to be two negatives. 8x squared minus 8x minus 1x plus 1. So we're always checking, right? We're always checking. 8x and x here, I'm going to go with 8x and x again because that's 7. Could be really 8 minus 1, right? And I see that negative 1, it's going to be negative 1, positive 1. 8x squared plus 8x minus 1x minus 1. So it takes some, just math intuition, I think, to do these problems. We'll try the last 3. We try and keep the numbers small, like 6x squared. Now I honestly don't know if that's a 6x and x or a 3x and 2x. So if I don't know, I'm just going to try one. And then 8, well boy, that could be 1 times 8, that could be 2 times 4. I've got to manipulate the numbers so that I get an inner and outer term that add up to 19. I actually don't even know. Let's see. 19. They call this trial and error for a reason, so I might just try one. Oh, I see it now. Plus 8 plus 1. I got a little scared there, actually. I was like, oh, what if I don't get it? right? The inner term is 16x, the outer term is 3x, and that adds up to 19x. That's another way to check without fully foiling it out. Just checking your loops, we call it, checking your outers and inners. Another 6x squared. I don't know if it's 6x and x or 3x and 2x, so I'm just going to try. Then it's got to multiply to negative 4. So 1 times 4, 2 times 2. One's got to be positive, one's got to be negative. I think no. Plus 4 minus 1. I think that'll work. 8x is that loop, and then minus 3x, and that adds up to 5x. Trial and error. Next one. Now I'm feeling like this might be a 6 and a 1 because we had 2, 3x, and 2x, so I'm just going to try that. And then 10 is either 1 times 10 or 5 times 2. It's got to have a positive and a negative. It's got to end up as a negative. I think I got it. Minus 2 plus 5. Yep. So it's just a little puzzle here until I can figure out the two numbers that multiply to negative 10, but then give me an inner and outer that would add up to negative 7. This can be a frustrating assignment, but the more you do, the easier they will get.